84% reread. But the right side, struggling to recall, that's how you really learn. Students who tested themselves retained 80% after a week. Those who reread, only 36%. The strategies that feel easiest barely work. The ones that feel hardest, they double your retention. Learning feels like a workout? Good. That struggle locks it into memory. Here's the surprising evidence. The easy path leads down. The hard path leads up. The best methods always feel hard. Here's what science says. Practice testing and distributed practice win. Rereading and highlighting? Almost useless. Look at this chart. 84% of students just reread. Only 11% test themselves. And they wonder why they forget everything. First read, you get the gist. Second, you fill gaps. But after that, diminishing returns. Rereading loses to practice testing, elaborative interrogation, and self-explanation. Every single time. You highlight to remember. But your brain? The connections are broken. Highlighting actually makes you worse at drawing inferences. You're reading, and it feels so easy. You close the book, and your mind goes blank. That's fluency. It tricks you into thinking you've learned. But there's a smarter way. You close the textbook, confident, then the quiz is blank. Familiar doesn't mean learned. Each rereading feels smoother. That fluency tricks your brain. You judge learning by how easy it feels, not by how much you'll actually remember. Rereading? Highlighting? After reviewing over 700 studies, researchers dump them in the red pile. Low utility. Barely better than doing nothing. On the left, rereading feels like learning. On the right, testing yourself actually works. The gap between them? It's where most students fall, and they never even notice. Look at that hill. It's called desirable difficulty. The climb is brutal, but that struggle, it's what makes the memory stick. Rereading, one thin line. Retrieval, a web of connections. Your brain searches, activates, and builds multiple pathways to the same memory. Rereading feels productive, but it's a trap. Testing yourself, even when you fail, locks the memory in. That's the testing effect. When you dig for a memory, your brain doesn't just find it. It fires up everything connected to it. More connections, more access points. Next time, instant recall. Karpik and Roediger split students into 4 groups. Some kept testing words after recall. Others dropped them. The results? They'll change how you think about learning. Feather light weight, bored face, zero muscle. Heavy barbell, bulging muscles, glowing progress. Your brain works the same. No strain, no growth. 1 week later, the repeated testing group remembered 80%. The group that stopped? Just 36%. More than double the retention, and this is just the beginning. You'd think you'd remember 50% too. But the actual results? 80% for testing, 36% for restudying. A massive gap, and you'd be just as shocked. Flashcards, multiple choice, free recall, even open book, they all boost retention. The format doesn't matter. The act of retrieving does. That's the testing effect. 242 studies. 169,179 participants. All pointing to one number. D equals 0.74. That's the power of practice testing. A boost of nearly 3/4 of a standard deviation. Rereading barely works. Testing doubles your memory. All those all-nighters you pulled. Not ideal. Don't answer that. Time to rethink your study strategy. Read your material. Close the book. Write down everything you remember. Then check what you missed. But does it actually work? You got it right? Great. But don't retire that card. Keep testing it. The ones you know best need the most review. The key? Repeated retrieval after success. First recall, second, third. See those connections multiply? That's your brain building a superhighway. Don't stop once you get it right. Think you need to practice in the exact exam format? Wrong. Short answer drills boost multiple choice scores. And vice versa. Practice testing without feedback? You risk learning the wrong answer. But add feedback, and that red X becomes a green check mark. Your brain remembers the right one. You're dead sure and dead wrong. But here's the twist. Your brain hypercorrects that mistake. The more confident you were, the better you learn. Active recall with flashcards, brain glowing. Passive lecture, brain dim. A trial of 90 dental students proved it. Spaced repetition beats lectures. Higher retention at 1 month and 3. Testing beats rereading. Spacing beats cramming. These aren't theories. They're patterns confirmed across hundreds of studies. But there's one more piece. Cramming gives you a steep drop-off. But spread those hours across days, and your brain holds on. Distributed practice isn't just better, it's how memory sticks. A meta-analysis of 254 studies, 14,000 participants. Spaced study, 47% recall. Massed, only 37%. That's a 10-point gap. The optimal gap? 10 to 20% of the retention time. For a 1-week exam, space sessions 12 to 24 hours apart. But what about a year? To remember something for 5 years, space your study sessions 6 to 12 months apart. Longer gaps feel scary, but they produce far better retention. Look at this. 3 groups. 1 crammed. 1 waited a day. 1 waited 30 days. Who remembered the most? The 30-day group crushed it. 2 physicians. 1 uses spaced repetition. The other? Lectures. The result? A 0.62 effect size. And this isn't a tiny lab study. It's 26,258 real doctors. A large effect size. 10 to 20% better retention. One rule, keep testing. But what does that look like in your study routine? You read a fact. Then you pause and ask, why is this true? Your brain starts connecting the dots, linking new info to what you already know. One group was asked why. After each fact, they recalled 72%. The other group just read. They recalled only 37%. That's almost double the memory, just from asking why. Blocked practice feels productive, but interleaving, mixing problem types, forces your brain to pick the right strategy. That struggle is where real learning sticks. Interleaved practice scored 63%. Blocked? Just 20%. And here's the twist. During practice, interleaving felt harder. But a week later, it crushed blocked. The 3 are method, read, recite, review. Read a passage, close the book, and recite what you remember. Then review what you missed. It's simple, but it forces your brain to actually retrieve information. But what about math? A 2025 meta-analysis found the testing effect for math may not be as robust. For math, interleaving might be your better bet. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The struggling student on the left? They gain a massive 0.47 effect size. But the confident student on the right actually loses ground, minus 0.11. If you're already learning effectively, practice testing might not help you at all. You get it wrong. You see the right answer. That mistake? It's now a memory anchor, stronger than if you'd never failed. On the left, traditional lectures, 33.8% failure. On the right, active learning, 21.8%. That's a 55% drop across 225 studies. The stakes are real. Rereading? Highlighting? Cross them out. They feel productive, but they don't work. Test yourself. Space it out. That's how you actually remember. Second, space out your study sessions. Green check marks on the calendar. That's the goal. Cramming? That's the red X. The sweet spot. 10 to 20% of how long you need to remember. Miss that window, and you're just wasting time. Third, embrace the discomfort. That struggle up the hill? It's what plants the flag of lasting knowledge. You made it. You chose the hard path. And look, the summit is already glowing. The easy path, it just fades. Because what feels hard now builds knowledge that lasts. You closed the textbook. Now write from memory. That green check mark? Proof you're learning. Subscribe for more evidence-based study hacks. Your brain doesn't learn from reading. It learns from retrieving. So close the book and start pulling.